Hey guys, I'm here to talk about Sharepoint portal launches today, and we're going to have 5 best practices on how to go about doing that and make it a successful launch for you. So whether you're creating a new portal from scratch or you're moving content from an existing portal, we can all agree that they're very, very important to coworkers and the culture at your workplace. Employee portals are super valuable because they're that one-stop shop for employees to go get those records and procedures and documents. They're reading news on there and they're getting all sorts of contact information, and it's really helping aggregate all of the content in your business together. We recommend Sharepoint for this kind of thing because they have always been widely regarded as the go-to employee portal setup space. The tips that I'm going to go over today are actually specific to Sharepoint, but they definitely apply to any other tool that you would use to set up an employee portal. It can be a huge undertaking to get one of these things launched, so we want to go through 5 different tips on how to go about doing this in an efficient way and avoid some pitfalls that are pretty common that we see in the workplace. Before we dive in, as always, if you like this kind of content, like and subscribe below, and thanks for watching. So point number 1 is to develop a clear communication plan for launching your portal. So launching an employee portal at a company is a big deal because it impacts everyone. All their bookmarks are going to break. They have new instructions to go to certain areas that they didn't have to before. They have to learn how to go and navigate to certain areas where their content lives now as opposed to what they were used to. A lot of people have past experiences of how these things are supposed to work, and they might have preconceived notions about where to get their HR content and where policies and procedures are stored. So your coworkers are going to have some fears and some reluctancies to dive into this new portal experience. And to help mitigate those fears, you need a clear communication plan that's going to help define the stages of the portal launch and the phases that you're going to go through, the milestones you're going to reach, and how that impacts what they're doing at their work. You may find that not all of your coworkers are SharePoint experts, so you're going to need to meet them halfway and develop training on how to access the site, how the site works, where to go, and really be that support for them when they access the portal. Tip number 2, keep permissions and roles simple on your portal launch. So there's 2 people you really need to care about during this portal launch process and when it comes to managing permissions. There are the people that are accessing that content and consuming it as an employee or a coworker, and there's the content owners that are administering and updating that content. So it can be pretty easy to just look at your organizational structure and build groups and roles and get really, really granular about permissions for your Sharepoint portal. You don't want to do that. Really, we need to worry about the Sharepoint visitors that need read access and the content owners that are going to have member access, which is add and editing content. You can get more complex in certain areas of your portal if owners need to be segregated away in different libraries and lists and subsites, but really you should start small, establish who's going to be creating and touching that content and administering and governing over it, and then just the people that need to see it. So you may have a unique piece of content and you're not really sure how to secure it, and it can be really tempting to ask yourself, who can all see this content and where should I put it? But I think you should flip that and start asking yourself, who can't see this content? Defining who those people are will help you figure out where it should go and how to secure and manage those permissions. Point number 3, keep your pages alongside all of your site content, the libraries, the lists, and all the other data that you have that aligns to those pages. So generally speaking, there are 2 areas of Sharepoint we want to talk about here. The back end of Sharepoint, where your data goes, your files, your lists and libraries, and then the site pages where all that content is surfaced up to. Part of the reason we want to keep these libraries aligned with these site pages and all the other data in the site is because users are going to land on surfaced pages where all of this content is aggregated to. It's going to be aggregated in a nice filtered, organized way that you can define later on. So when you're populating content on the portal, it can be really tempting just to direct users right to the document libraries or lists that you've set up. You can't really do much about describing the content at that level. It's really important to create site pages for your users to land on. And not only does this help with search and helping your users get to stuff faster, but it helps communicate to the content owners that if they see content on the portal they need to update, chances are it's right next to the lists or libraries where the site pages are located. So when you're building your site structure, you should be thinking about 3 different things. What sites do you need to create? What libraries and lists and things do you need to create to host that data? And what site pages are you going to build to surface that content for the user on? So point number 4, populate portal content early as you can. So chances are you're either creating a new portal from scratch or you're moving stuff from your old portal. Once you start this process and start populating content, there's going to be a fear that you have to manage it in 2 separate areas. So what we recommend is that you move all of this stuff as quickly as possible and launch stuff in little pieces. Sharepoint is an iterative process, so launching small areas for your team and closing out those areas so that there's no double management of content is really, really useful. It's pretty common knowledge that Sharepoint is a tweakable, constantly evolving tool, so don't worry too much if you don't have the latest and greatest for a certain file or document. You should be able to go grab that and drop it in and get it updated pretty quickly, even after launch. The fifth and final point about having good collaboration and communication around launching a portal is having really good content. You need to have good, relevant content for your users when you launch. You're going to feel compelled to make all these tweaks and polish up all these pages on launch day, but it's more important that you have content that your users care about when they go to the site for the first time. That's going to be what drives their first impression towards adoption. There's been so many times where we have clients who are just obsessed with finessing photos and page headers and finding the right fonts, and that's really all after the fact kind of tweaks that you can make after the portal has launched. A user is not going to land on an HR page because it has a really pretty picture. They're going to keep going back to that page because content is king and you have news articles or announcements that those users care about. If you don't continue the momentum of creating content on your portal, users are going to get the idea that no content will ever end up there. So it's important that you have content stream coming through right to your users. In modern Sharepoint, you can schedule news to be published at certain dates, or we recommend you just publish it right away. You guys may have a monthly newsletter that comes out at the end of every month, but you should be publishing news separately as it happens at your company. That makes it so new employees or employees that were left on vacation can go to that Sharepoint instead of having to dig through newsletters or old archived emails to find that information. So we discussed a lot of aspects of launching a portal, and those best practices, again, are planning and communicating out to your users, establishing roles and permissions for the people involved in the project, aligning your sites and libraries and pages all together in the same areas in a structured, organized way that makes sense, and creating relevant content and publishing it as soon as possible. This was just a general overview of all these things. They're all kind of little different aspects of the portal launch, but it makes sense that a site administrator would need to keep all of these things in mind, and it's a great balancing act when you're doing something like a portal launch. So we're going to be doing a deeper dive onto some of these topics in the future. If something resonated with you or you want to give us your suggestions with something that you think should be covered, leave a comment below. Another thing I want to make you aware of is we just launched our first podcast. It's called Make Others Successful. It's a little bit longer format. We have some good dialogue and conversations about a lot of these topics. So if podcasts interest you, if that's your type of media to consume, you can check us out in the link below. Additionally, if you haven't been to our website, we have a new learning center set up there, which organizes all of these blogs into different topics and helps you filter to see what kind of content we're creating. As always, we're trying to give you guys the best tools and the most up-to-date resources on some of these things that are coming out. We're really interested to see what your guys' feedback is about that. So that's in the link below, also in the description. That's it for me today, guys. I'll check you guys out in the next one. I will not check anybody out. That's it for me today. I'll see you guys later. Have a great day. Is that okay?